Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome to Algathar Academy 19. I want to start doing some gameplay commentary, both to help me with my play and give you guys some healer perspective on stuff. If you're new to healing with a class or you want to just get a little bit into my brain, here you go. Welcome, welcome. Should be a fun one. There's a lot to talk about here. And ultimately, this is the cleanest run I think I've ever seen of this place. We only have 2 deaths this entire run, and I think a single cheat death. Absolutely wild stuff. So we end up lusting this bridge pull. This bridge pull is really fascinating to me because normally like double fortified pulls like this with like, you know, 2 groups that are really dangerous really suck. But like I found that this was kind of breezy. And part of the reason is the crowd control from these groups is excellent. But also that like, and I probably should have contributed to that CC a little bit more. I got a little focused on healing here, so maybe that wasn't a bad thing. But wow, it's just that lust really does help with healing. It's not something I actively think about very often, and you can flame me if you want, but normally when we do lust pulls, either I'm like using emergency cooldowns and healing people up and then returning to damage, or I am just blasting. And this is a pull where we're like watching it in retrospect, I'm really noticing like, whoa, look at how fast I was able to chuck out those heals and top up the whole party, and it was great. I really like it. Those pulls are fun, but I think my rule with lust, my like rule of thumb for lust is as long as the whole lust gets used on a pack and the damage is good and it provided some form of time save, I think it was a good lust. For pugs, right? Like in tournament play, there's going to be very specific pulls you want to lust. Lusting AoE packs is going to be more damage efficient because you just do more damage in AoEs, but we have some really unique lusts in this dungeon, or rather we have 2 lusts in this dungeon that are pretty interesting, and I actually really liked where we used them. So AoE pack on the bridge gets a big thumbs up from me. You know what else gets a big thumbs up from me? Wow, that almost sounded like a sponsored segment. No, there's no sponsored segment. 4-piece. Yeah, no, this stream's sponsored by 4-piece. God, instant cast Living Flame, 20% health, 20% damage, health, healing. It's insane. You just put reversions on people. It's crazy because when you play Devastation, it's such a fun talent, but it only works on, you basically only really get them on level 1 or 2 charges. When you max out the charge of Flame Breath, you end up throwing a big living flame, but ultimately the living flame stops ticking, and that's where you get your source of instant cast. But here it's one of your best heals and a really great heal over time. So like you just chuck a temporal anomaly and get the whole party everything they need, and then you get to, and then the benefit is you get instant cast living flames. And look right here, I'm probably gonna throw a temporal because I want more. So I throw it, everyone's got it, everyone's got reversion. Now I'm gonna start farming up those procs. It's addicting. It's so addicting, in fact, that at the end of this boss fight, I'm fishing for them when I should just be killing the boss. It's pretty good stuff. Yeah, I don't know, having a spot heal in a class that doesn't have very great spot heals, right? Everything is 2 GCDs worth of time, and some of them are really big cooldowns or have to be charged up. It's kind of nice to have another good spot heal. I mean, granted, I think one might argue reversion's one of the best spot heals, but it's conditional, right? Someone has to have taken damage for reversion to be a good spot heal. And that's sort of deadly, if you think about it. Like, that's not what makes a good spot heal. Like, what if we all took a ton of damage and I healed up the party and then the tank's still low? Reversion's not going to do anything, right? It's just going to be a cute little damage heal over time on them, and that's it. But, you know, if somebody just took damage and you reversion them like that, like right that heal, I'll rewind for it. Yeah, look at this. They're going to get blasted on pull here. And I see they have an echo. I hit reversion, and look at that health bar just jump, right? Like, that's such a significant amount of healing to do through damage. So yeah, reversion's really good, but this class just doesn't have tons of good spot heals, like fast, quick, boost that health bar up without a little bit of setup and a little bit of planning. So I guess 4-piece just making that easier is great, but then also it increases your damage. What's not to love? God, I think it'd be a little broken though if it was on our base kit. Kind of hope I get to keep set forever, but I know that's not true, so I'm just gonna enjoy it while it lasts. These big pulls, I end up just doing damage. Stop monotonous lectures whenever you can. Make sure the big blast, the mystic blast or whatever goes off. It's just do damage. This isn't too interesting. Let's get to the boss fight. Boss fight time. All right, so I need to do this more. This is more tips for me than it is anyone else. But you want to top everyone off after the arcane expulsion, because then everyone gets bombs, and most people can survive bombs with a full health bar, but the damage over time, especially on Tyrannical Week, really hurts. So my argument is you want to top everyone off so that they're all okay, and then you can get back to it. I don't tend to keep that flow, and I don't know what it is about boss fights, but I tend to just... I plan around certain mechanics, but I'm not thinking about the fact that, like, oh hey, that breath went off, that means a bomb might be coming. Our mana bombs is in the spell queue, right? Like, I should be prepared for it, and I'm not usually thinking about it. And so I need to get a little bit better of checking that spell queue. I think I heal by feel a lot, and I know the boss fights, so like I get a sense of when damage is coming, but like as great as my gamer senses might be, there's a more logical, tactical way of dealing with that. So I want to work on that. That's just something I need to get better about. I was going to say, do I defensive that? I do defensive that. But otherwise, this group, it's great AoE damage, great single target damage. I'm going to be doing nothing but complimenting them in this fight. And these fissures are brutal. Like, it's so easy to dodge, but like, man, if you're not prepared for that and you step on top of another melee players, you make a split-second decision that's wrong there, you just toasted. Absolutely, without a doubt. Get those bombs out of here. And then this is the part where I probably should have, after healing everyone, focused on damage, because Veximus is so low. So I heal everyone up, right, doing my job, and then I disintegrate, and then I don't know what I'm thinking here, but I set up a temporal anomaly when I probably should have just slammed the boss for the last few percent. It's not a crazy needed optimization, but it's something I want to get in the habit of, because damage is everything. And so it's something I do want to talk about while we clear some of these, like, kind of boring packs. I mean, this one's a little more exciting than the other packs, but just I want you all to remember as players that like damage is the biggest time save, right? So if you're a healer and you're like worried about keys and, oh, we're not timing keys, listen, players have to deal with avoidable damage, and you have to heal them up if they survive the avoidable damage. But like, when you can do damage, it's time save. Every healer's got to heal it. Every healer's got to know that, yeah, if you can be doing damage, you're saving the key time. And actually, if there's any mathematicians or someone who knows someone who did the math, I would love to know if there's a way for us to calculate how much time save a player contributed to packs. I'd be really interesting to know that statistic, because I know it's good time save. When I do 10% of damage or 5% of damage in a boss fight, I know I shaved seconds off of a fight. And when you do that on every single pull, you end up saving minutes, and I would love to see that physically laid out. But it's just for all of you to remember that, like, in general, that damage is helpful. Now, let me roll it back a little bit. If you're new to healing, don't worry about the damage too much. As you get more comfortable healing, you'll learn where you have gaps, and that's where your damage goes. So that sort of stuff is important, but it comes with time. It's also only really needed at a higher level, and at all levels, your time save is in your DPS players. So this dungeon, in an eye-opening way for me, made me realize just how little damage some players do. So by the time I was pushing keys like more competitively, it was Shadowlands Season 3, right? That's when I first got Hero. I always talk about that season because that's when I feel like I was the most alive in WoW. I feel like at that point I was on my own. I didn't need as much help from my friend Furbos as much to kind of figure out what to do. And yeah, it's sort of a thing where like everyone was already doing good damage. We were 3 seasons in. When you were doing 20s, everyone was pumping. You rarely got a player that was an absolute buster. And usually they would be the first to tell you like, dude, I messed up my cooldown there. I'm so sorry. And you'd be like, oh, okay, it happens. Like, right. But season 1 of Shadowlands of Dragonflight has so many returning players and so many new faces and class changes and things that are just entirely different, that like, don't beat yourself up when other players aren't pulling the weight. Start really realizing like, hey, for this key level, is that enough damage? I don't ever want you all to be toxic. I don't want anyone to be toxic about that sort of thing. But I do want people to be cognizant of the fact that you might be playing with some people that suck. And like, we don't want to be rude about it, but when you fail a key by 3 minutes over, but somebody in item level 400 gear was doing a 40k overall in a dungeon where they should probably have gotten like a 50 or 60 or 70k overall, right? Like, okay, we're talking about how much time save a healer gives by doing 5 to 10% of damage. Imagine how much missing yeah, an additional 15 to 20% on a large DPS looks like, right? So just wanted to get that out of the way. By the way, interesting lust, right? Our tank called for lust here. And I gotta say, on Fortified Week, I think I'm down for this, because this sentry, if you get 4 or 5 wind phases, it takes forever to kill, right? So like, why not make that a guaranteed 2, maybe 3 wind phase? And I think if our damage here was a little more stellar, we would actually have gotten this down in probably less. We end up losing a player. I get them up pretty easily. We have a really silly death coming up, but these are the only 2 deaths. You're about to see the next one come up, but I actually liked lusting here, right? It follows my rule of thumb of like, hey, we got all the damage we possibly could get in. We utilized the entirety of the lust, and, you know, it provided time save where, you know, there might not, or something might be slow, and that's a particularly slow fight. So I really like that. Did you all miss it? Because let me tell you, I don't get a good angle on this. The tank dies voiding out below us, and this is the last footage we get. They jump, transform midair, and I think maybe that's what did it, because they just died, and I never really understood it, but we end up summoning them back and whatever. Birds. Okay, not a lot to talk about here, except for I will eat my words to whoever heard me talk about this pull before Mythic Plus dropped. I thought this was going to be the most cakewalk part of the dungeon until I found out how much damage Peck does, and oh my god, if you let the enrage get off, like the birds hit so hard and they all drop down, and healer aggro's a problem, and people just get slammed before the tank can get aggro, and oh god. I've seen some absolute disasters here, and I'm never trusting myself again when it comes to pre-patch. Like when we're rather pre-Mythic Plus, like when we're sizing up the dungeons in M0, I'm never gonna listen to myself when I say a pull's gonna be easy. Never again. I've just been wrong every time. Also, I didn't really talk about it, but like the tank's running for their life right now because of bolstering. Yeah, bolstering makes everything hurt. One of the things that this group does well, that's an optimization for all of you, DPS and healers alike, is try to attack the highest health target unless target priority is to get less of them on screen. So some mobs, right, like they cast a really nasty spell, the less of those nasty spells going off, the easier your life is. Okay, in that scenario, try to murder as many mobs as possible so that you have less incoming damage, because that's going to make your life easier and keep the survivability of the group up. However, especially on Bolstering Week, there are a lot of mobs where the typical rule is, and I'll do my best to explain this. Shout out to my buddy Chirpy. He's the one who originally taught me this, and he said it way smarter than I did, so get ready. But if everyone's health bar is even, then the AoE damage is being utilized to its highest capacity, right? So let's say you got, I don't know, a bunch of 2-target cleave. If one of the targets dies, then you're missing out on that super fat cleave damage. But if you can get those health bars similar and close enough, then that means that the cleave damage will be utilized for the longest period of time possible. Now, it's important to note that in all of the scenarios I just mentioned, the health bars are going down. But if we spend extra seconds on the pull because one of them died way faster than another one, then we wasted time because now we're single targeting something down with a bunch of cleavers or AoE players that could have been pumping. And that's actually even more true in AoE, right? I said cleave just because it's, I think, easier to visualize, but when you're in an AoE pack, right, everyone's going to be blasting, but your job as a healer, maybe something's got a higher health target. Maybe there's or this is maybe like your single target rogue or whatever have you, right? Like, hey, there's a target with a health bar that's higher. Don't just pad AoE damage, try to get that health bar lower because everyone else's AoE will be more utilized efficiently and you save a ton of time. It's kind of awesome, and especially as the single target on preservation's pretty good, and also I've been finding it's pretty decent on Discipline Priest and Mistweaver as well. Honest to God, it's like the thing I focus on is find the higher health target and try to bring them down so that the targets die as evenly as possible. Okay, so I mess up here and I cleanse a bleed too early. I find it's easier to keep the tank alive in this fight if you hold till the second or third peck to cleanse the bleed, and then on the third or fourth one, or the second and the third, or however you want to math it out, tyrannical or fortified week, use time dilation to help the tank out. I see tanks just fall over on this fight sometimes, and it sucks. And look at how many, I think we go 4 or 5 rounds of deafening screeches. Yeah, we're on screech 3 right now. I, being a bit of a dummy, have already popped my defensives. I need to work on that as a player. I use defensives here like I'm scared. And I need to just wait for third and fourth Deafening Screech, and then probably Zephyr the fifth one if we ever go that far, or Zephyr the fourth one, holding my defensive for if we end up going further. But the answer is, if you can coordinate with your group the timing of Zephyr, that's good. But honestly, you don't want to die here because you took too many Deafening Screeches. I think we get one more, right? No, actually, I think damage phase starts. Yeah. Perfectly timed, actually. Again, this group was just phenomenal. And now we're in damage phase, and look at those numbers start flying up. We're all doing more damage. This is a good time for you to blast. This is great. We love this, but this boss fight scares me. Because players just make mistakes here and they die, and then the fight becomes so much harder. It is so imperative that all the DPS stay up in this fight, because you do not want to be chugging through the last 5%, hoping that the last Deafening Screech isn't about to come out and kill the tank in one hit. So I don't like it, but this kind of gave me a lot of confidence in how long I can wait on Fortified Week versus Tyrannical. And as a big reminder, just be good with your defensives. Preservation Evokers, if you're not running double Obsidian scales on this fight, you're probably throwing. It's that important that you have those defensives. But mission accomplished, pretty good stuff. Moving on, this is actually where I noticed this, because I hate they're called skitterflies. Yeah, they're just the most obnoxious unit in the game. They just keep jumping to people. It's awful. And you know what? It's not like the awful things from Tazavesh, if you all remember that. Like the peacekeepers that would dash if you were too far away. No, they just dash because they hate you. It's so obnoxious. It's just the worst. But that being said, one of the beautiful things about this group is, again, that damage. Look at how evenly we kill things here. There's 30% health on that Lasher, and I'm not really paying attention to it because I'm healing right now, but you can see it. They're destroying all of them at the same time, but they're really gunning down the skitterflies, and that's going to make them all a really even cleave. Now, one of them's a little lower than maybe intended, and it gets absolutely melted. So there goes a bolstering stack. But look, now there's two bolsters, and look at how close they are. Now the Lasher's at 2%. They all start focusing the skitterfly, and they die almost instantly. That is some of the best DPS control I've ever seen in a pug. Like, wow, because that can turn into 15 years of fighting a Lasher, right? But no. Clean, good, World of Warcraft. Was very proud of this group. Had a lot of fun, but we don't need to watch all of these. Y'all know what happens in these pulls. Ichi straws, there's too much life magic. Me, there's... All right, let's talk about it. So, Tree Man, first things first. Almost every group I've run with goes left on Germinate. So stack up in melee. Yes, range, stack in melee. You know, I'm just going to take a second to take a pot shot at every Hunter player in the world. Stop it. Get some help. Stand in melee. It doesn't hurt here. Why do you have to be on the other side of the planet all the time? It doesn't even increase your damage. There was an expansion, I know, where you got an ability for that. Stop it. It's 2023. Anyway, you run left there. Tons of damage. They tell me to hit Lust here. Get out of the way of the tree. Listen, my only advice on this fight is this bleed sucks. You can stasis this bleed off of everyone but the tank. For those of you who don't know that combo, it is simply stasis the party one at a time, right? Hit your bottom player, hit your bottom DPS, your mid DPS, your top DPS, you. Or no, excuse me. You hit the bottom 3 DPS in a row with stasis up. This is going to put a cauterize in stasis, put a cauterize in stasis, put a cauterize in stasis. And then once the bleed goes out, you launch stasis and all 3 targets receive the cauterize. And then you can use the 4th one on yourself. And then the only person who's bleeding is the tank, which is totally fine. Now, this is good if your group sucks, because realistically, just kill the branch. Kill the branch and you can receive the biggest single target heal in this game I have seen yet, 470,000 healing. But honestly, just focus on that branch. You should do it as the healer too. If you have a moment, you might not have a moment. People might be taking a ton of damage in that, but honest to God, and feel free to use a rewind here. Like if you run double charge rewind, why not? Makes life easy. And then dispel the tank as needed. But yeah, honestly, this fight isn't too bad if everyone's good about using defensives. I sometimes Zephyr on that AoE for spawning the lashers, that's sort of where I tend to press Zephyr if I do need it. That's mostly a tyrannical thing, because then players get slapped by the lashers and you want to avoid that to the best of your abilities. But yeah, just kill tree. Easy fight. I used to really fret this fight, but since the rearranging of the abilities, and now that players seem to understand that you're supposed to focus the branch down, it ultimately has turned into a fight that is much more relaxing, much more doable. And it just requires everyone to not get hit by the big dumb swirlies, which is harder than it sounds, unfortunately. But yeah, good kill there. Nothing bad to say. Something for me to note, this is a self-improvement point I did on my first recording of this. It's just, these are whirlwinds. Man, I just gotta knock them back. Like, use knockbacks, use knockups, stop them. I kind of remember to, but I'm not running the talent that reduces my tail swipe to 45 seconds. It is now on. I turned it back on because I felt I didn't need the stamina help anymore. But, so I removed the 2 points from the stamina buff and put them elsewhere. Yeah, I just can't say enough about it. Having a reduced tail swipe cooldown is all the rage. It's still not the best CC, right? It's not a 30-second CC or anything like that, but damn, it's real nice. It's really nice to have, and being able to stop these whirlwinds is good, because otherwise, like, there are very few DPS in the game that can do it, but like, DPS have like all dodge, all parry stuff, like die by the sword, that lets you stand in those whirlwinds. But like, if you can just let the player stand in there without using a defensive, they can use that defensive and potentially when there's no CC left, right? But this pack otherwise goes pretty decently. Our tanks trying to kite to the best of their abilities. The group is doing a pretty good job of getting their health bars down pretty low. Not perfectly, but I'm trying to find the highest health target I can while healing, but they're gonna get bolstered. But not a lot to talk about there. I get a little spooked here, and maybe it's because I really wanted this 19 timed, but I pop an invis here. I did not need to pop an invis here. I must have been nervous about something, but this group just does so much damage. It's insane. Like, they peaked at 140 something K on a 4-pack. A little wild. I don't know how much I would do here as a devastation, but I have a feeling it would be nowhere near that Demon Hunter. It's just insane. And then Daragosa. This boss fight's kind of easy. My advice to players on this fight is over-respect breath. Breath typically comes after the knockback at some point, but honestly, get your bombs out when you can. Check your buff arcane person debuff looking stack, whatever that symbol is, but take that symbol. When you see 2 on someone, that means the next time they receive a mechanic, they're going to drop a thing. Try to position on the edges of the arena if you can. Melee, that means more against the wall. As ranged, maybe stand in Narnia. One of the two. But this boss fight's kind of, I don't know, this boss fight's kind of easy. It's just, I don't really think about it anymore. It's once you know how to play the bullet hell, you're fine. You just heal. You're good. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything else like to say about this fight, because I really don't. It was just clean. Like, I guess closing comments, right? Like, it was clean. This run was just so fast. It was so well executed. I mean, if we didn't have the silly tank death, I wonder how much time would still be on the clock. Also, I guess in retrospect, that shows how tight some of these dungeons are. We have a clean run with some pretty excellent damage. That the top Demon Hunter right now, they end up hitting 100k overall. Like, nothing to sneeze at. Like, it's some insane damage. So I guess my big point here is this is a really hard X-Pack. Timers are tight, things are challenging. So just be very nice to yourself as a player. Just know that while things are hard and things are challenging, it's 100% worth the effort getting better at this stuff. And if you're still doing lower keys and you're slowly climbing your way up, don't get too scared about this stuff, because as players learn the mechanics more and they learn how to play their roles a bit better, as the season even continues to get towards the end, players will get better and these runs will be easier to do with pugs. But ultimately, I was really satisfied with this. This group was so clean and I had an absolute blast running with them. But I hope you guys enjoyed the commentary. Thank you so much for watching. I have more videos to come. I've just been very busy trying to get some of my life stuff situated, but I plan to get the next video on pug healing out soon, and I'll probably do some more gameplay commentary, maybe of my first 20 that I did very soon. So I'll see you all in the next one.